3PNR with Adam R. Welcome to 3PNR. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Patricia Avant. She has the YouTube channel. It's the Women's UAP Network. Is that right?
It was, but now it's just the UAP Network.
Got it. So we'll start with this, Patricia. What got you on this path of ufology? What put you here?
Oh, geez. It was just sheer right place at the right time. I was not looking for UFOs or UAPs or any of that. And 2016, I stepped out on my porch, saw these 4 hanging globes and was astonished. And then in 2017, they not just the globes, but I don't know if you saw the documentary.
I haven't. I was waiting to speak to you, and then I was going to watch it and have you on again. Right? I like doing that.
Okay. Well, there's some very strange things on there, and every single one of them were in the sky. And so that's how I got into this.
You had this title that it caught me like right away. The title's Black People Do See UFOs. And after reading that title, I was forced to rewatch a lot of documentaries and a lot of these shows. And I didn't see very many Black people. And you made me think of this. So why? Why is that? Why? I got to ask you why.
Well, I've since learned it was just a kind of running joke in the Black community. We just didn't see them. But it turns out, since I put this documentary out and since I've actually talked to some other people, I think it's just that we have a different perspective on it. You know, in the UFO community, at least in the Twitter UFO community, it's kind of a big no-no to connect spirituality or anything of that nature to UFOs and extraterrestrials. You know, they have them as this kind of standalone entity that exists somewhere that nobody's actually really seen. But turns out it's a very, very spiritual thing for us. And it's not that we're not seeing them, it's that we don't express it quite the same way.
Right. So it's mostly unreported then.
So, yeah, it's not like we're going to run to, what's the one that starts with an M?
MUFON.
Yeah. You know, going to run there and tell them we saw a UFO. And it's just not, that's just not what's happening in this community. It's considered a very personal, very spiritual, very universal thing. And that's what's going on. But now I have since then seen several African Americans with different, you know, with all the cell phones and everything, and you see something, you film it. And more Black people seem to be doing that these days. But that is what it was. It's just not that we just didn't express it the same way.
Yeah, you know, it's shocking because after I read that title, it made me think like, oh, that can't be. So again, I rewatched so many documentaries. And you
won't find one.
Yeah. And if you do, it's very few. Very few. So that's why I was excited to talk to you. I was like, I got to know why this is. This can't be. So now how you explain it, it makes sense to me in a way.
Yeah. You know, and I don't think it's not a divided racial thing. I think there are, I've talked to many white people who connect this with a spiritual experience, but on the bigger scale, and you know, just in the white male community, a larger scale, they do not, and they actually frown upon. You know, Lou Elizondo, I think he said that he had when he was really when that department he was in, and he approached one of his colleagues, and he was kind of bugging him. I want to do this. I want to do this. And the guy finally turns around and tells him, we know what they are. They're dangerous. They're demons. Leave them alone. And that one word, demon, kind of turned him off from what the rest of what the guy had said, which is, we do know what they are, but you should leave them alone. But he was more upset with the colleague being a religious guy and having this connecting this religious thing to it. He didn't want to have that part connected to it.
Right.
So,
there are a lot of parallels with ufology, paranormal, and spirituality, religion. There's a lot of parallels. And, UFOs have been exampled in religion predating Catholicism. All right. It's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And to your, to add to what you're saying, there's a lot of Native Americans that don't speak of UFOs. They just accept them as like a spiritual thing. It's not something to report. So, I could see that.
Yeah. And I wrote a little article not too long ago on Medium, and the title is Indigenous People Never Thought They Were Alone. They've always, just like you say, the artwork, when you take your mind out of the freezer and look at a lot of the artwork, you can actually see the connections to these spaceships and all these different entities that they were referring to as we refer to them, or our culture in America refers to it as a myth, or they were probably just making stuff up. And, it's too much of it all around. The pyramids, the artwork, all of that's everywhere,
right?
In the indigenous lands. And so at some point, you have to open your eyes and say, okay, maybe we had it wrong. But, that's not an easy thing for people to do when they've been telling one story one way for a long time.
Right.
But they never thought they were alone, ever.
Yeah, they spoke them as the star people. Right?
Yeah.
So did the ancient Sumerians, because I was talking about this a number of times. The Sumerians have a tablet that depicts our solar system perfectly, long before the advent of telescopes.
Yeah.
And they didn't, to them, it was a spiritual thing too, right? So
yeah,
I can see that.
Spiritual thing. And, even the pyramids, the idea that we've been just inundated with and just pushed on us about the pyramids not being anything specific. And then when you listen to or talk to somebody that's been there, there's this documentary, I forget the name of it, but it's in 4 parts. It was on Netflix, and it was this very old Egyptian that had been around. He said, in the tunnels of the pyramids and all of that, the Sphinx. And he talked about the irrigation tunnels underneath them, and that there were certain chambers in there that were for healing. These pyramids are not pointing to galaxies and stars and different things for no reason. Right. But, if you decide that this group of people were ignorant, or that they just couldn't, no way they could have, if you decide that and adhere to that and promote that, then, you're doing a great injustice to everybody. And ultimately it turns out that it was just lies, and you don't know why would they lie about this? What could they possibly gain from this? Well, of course, what they gained was technology, the beginnings of technology. There's so much technology there, but they found a computer and a huge battery, and they have found so many things that really could be considered technology, and probably is the beginning of any technology that we have. And you just try to figure out what was the point of the lie, but I guess ultimately everything boils down to money. You want to have all of this information and put your name on it and say you developed it, when in fact that's not the truth. And the problem with that is that it's caused so many issues in our various communities. These lies never stand. You know what I mean? Eventually, I don't care how long it takes, they unfold. And then you have a big problem. Then you have this major division. For me, even the stuff that happened at the Capitol, that has a background of frustration, of lies that have been told, where people just get fed up.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's an amazing thing. But the things that I saw in the sky, if I hadn't filmed them, I don't know if I would have, somebody could walk up to me and say, you know, I saw this thing that looked like an Egyptian eagle in the sky. And I'm trying to convince you I saw it.
Yeah.
If I hadn't saw these things myself, I probably wouldn't believe it, you know? So I get how most of us are not going to Egypt, and we're not there trying to decipher the hieroglyphics and all of that. And we're depending on somebody else to tell us the translation. And of course, that translation is going to be what they want you to believe.
Right.
You know,
a lot of it has to do with people falling under these titles like expert. And they don't want to be told they're wrong because they put their, they got their PhDs and their college for years. And then you hear a guy back in the day say, well, it's swamp gas.
Right.
In the air. So it's such a default, right? And then what you said earlier too, with that guy that talked to Lou Elizondo, that's common. Tomorrow aliens landed and they're like, look, we're here, we're peaceful, we're going to help. There's still going to be people like, nope, that's the devil. Pretty sure.
Yeah. And all of those labels, when you start reading ancient texts for yourself, the text that a lot of things that we are told are built on. And if you take religion off of it,
right, and
look at it as simply information, then you can get a clearer picture of things. I mean, you think about Enoch and you read that story and you went to the angels, blah, blah, blah. And those titles, angels and this and that and the other, throw people off. If you take all that crap off of it and just say this guy had an experience, he went somewhere off of this planet and something happened to him and he came back and he saw these things, then it would absolutely probably free us up to have those experiences ourselves. Because you can't experience something that you don't believe in, right?
Sure. And especially when you talk about a higher intelligence, I'm sure they could recognize people's ability to not want to believe, right? Their perception's limited.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would probably be the ones they would avoid. Like for me, I've never witnessed anything, and I'm pretty certain it's because I'm a pain, right? I'll just ask too many questions. Like, look, man, we're not here to answer your questions, right? Because it's just... Like even with ghosts, like I don't think if there's a ghost in the house now, it's like, don't talk to him because he won't leave us alone, right? So it's perception, right? A lot of people, they have this default mechanism in their minds where they're like, no, they don't. So what you were saying about the angels, why did they call them angels? It's the best description that they can understand, right? It's something biblical. Because, when you look prior to religion, when, predating Christianity and these other religions, they were spoken as star people and they came down in fiery ships. And so it's whatever's the modern culture at the time is what we use as a scapegoat for explanation, I think, anyway.
Oh, without a doubt. I know on Twitter, a lot of people that I've been interviewed with, they refer to the fairies and the goblins and all these different names. And then I was reading this book called the Arcane Teachings. It's either that one or the Formulas. And they almost describe the nature of the things I saw to a T. And they were called elementals. But they also referenced the fact that many people call these things fairies, goblins, all kinds of different names throughout the ages. And even angels, just like you said, because it was, they were all struck first when they saw them. They had to give them some kind of name. You can't just call them blobbies, Yeah. And so this information is there. It's just, for some reason, like you say, we take it and we turn it into something, it's like stars, we turn stars into twinkle, twinkle, little star. And so they lose all the magic and real power that these stars possess, because we diminish them somehow with all these labels and things. But there is absolutely an explanation for the things I saw. And but it's not a common explanation. And so when you get interviewed, people want to say they're plasma entities or plasma ships or this, that, and the other. But it's just an amazing thing how
what you're running into there is this is what's happening. When people start, like, again, to go back to the time when they're like, oh, it's swamp gas or it's a balloon or whatever, like they're doing this. These are fearful people needing explanation to calm the mass, right?
Yes.
And it's unfortunate. You know, those things that we call fairies or the little orbs you're seeing, if you're thinking about it, again, take humanity. If we go to another planet, we find life there, we can't breathe their air. So we're going to utilize drones, and advanced drones at a time might just be pure energy. Right? They're not going to have a physical element to them. So I think a lot of these orbs we're seeing are their recon, right? They go down there and they observe up close because the ships themselves, you know, why waste the resources when we could utilize this? In my thoughts, anyway.
Now, you mean the orbs, the red orbs that I saw?
Perhaps,
Are you saying that those might have been ours?
No. Those might be an advanced intelligence using that as a drone, right?
Yeah. But without a doubt, let me tell you, I saw those 4. I didn't film those. We watched those come one by one, line up just above my son and I. He saw 2 above a street light, and then they shot off and went way up, and then they just kind of one by one disappeared. Later on, when I actually started filming the sky and all that stuff and seeing things, I saw a bunch of them. They're everywhere, actually. And they, in my opinion, because of something else I saw, I think they actually also are just what you said, and they also kind of conduct, I don't know, for lack of a better word, galaxy traffic or something,
right?
Because they did a certain thing. But there was one time, and I'm going to put this video up. I was on the porch. It was summertime, and mosquitoes were everywhere. I put the camera in the chair, and it was still recording, and I got up to go get some bug spray. I came back out, and you can actually hear me spraying. And when I looked at that film later, 2 of these orbs, a white one and a red one, they seem to be so close to my banister, flicking like they were taking pictures of me, till I questioned if that was something governmental or what the heck. I couldn't believe how close they had gotten and how I didn't hear a sound.
Yeah, they could have been scanning too, right? I mean, for the purpose of, cross curiosity, they're scanning you.
Well, there was the one time I thought, probably was filming for close to a year, and never ever at any time had I felt watched, until one time I looked out my window and there were about 10 or 12 of them out there, and I was just filming away. And suddenly it was the very first time I felt like I was being watched back. And that scared the crap out of me. I will admit that.
Yeah.
That was the only time that I ever felt like something was watching me. Other than that, I was filming, and it was like I was filming something, of course, outside of myself and way in the sky and different things. And I didn't have any fear of them. I just want to know what the heck they are.
Yeah, if you want as well, you could send me the videos and I'll attach it to this podcast so people could see it. And then, obviously I'll link it over to your YouTube.
Okay.
What you said about fear, though, the more I've been reading, even the abductees, people have been abducted. I find the ones that have the most pushback are the ones that have like that, they lost control. They don't like that loss of control, right? These are pretty alpha people that are having the pushback. It seems to be the other ones that are, arms wide open, like, oh yeah, take me. They're okay. Yeah. Me, again, if we're going to me, if that alien show up, I'm like, look, you can take me, you can do whatever you want. Probe, I don't care. But let's have a conversation. I got to learn some stuff. You have a lot of technology, right? So.
Right.
But I'm a weird person like that, so.
Excuse me. So you've never had any experience?
Nothing. And I'll tell you, so with your title, which, again, every time I read that, it gives me pause. I have to think about it. But it says, black people do see UFOs. And I grew up, the majority of my friends are black. I had more black friends than white friends, but I'm a Puerto Rican Italian mixed person, right? So, I grew up in Catholic settings. And so it never dawned on me that I've never had a conversation with any of my friends as a kid about UFOs. Because my interest in it's always been there. it wasn't until 2017 when the government released videos where I was like, that's it, they're real, because you can't dispute that. But yeah, I personally have never witnessed anything, and I think I'm partially guilty because I've become part of today's society where a lot of my attention's in the screen as opposed to looking around and observing. But I'm going to do a documentary. I'm going to travel, and I promise I'm going to do my finest to not only just witness something but document it. And I'm going to call in a couple of my friends, right? And because of you, I have to now reach out to one of my friends, Ricky, black friend of mine, and I'm going to make him go with me. Because I got to level the odds, you know?
Well, I'm telling you, my personal opinion is you cannot see these things with a cell phone camera. You may see an orb, or you may get one of the round things. You need a camera of some sort. I have filmed the dark, and I started doing that because I filmed the dark. I was filming something one time, and it was too dark, and I couldn't see it like I wanted to. So I threw it in a photo editor to brighten it up, and was shocked at the number of red orbs and white orbs that were in this particular video, and which led me to believe that they're there most of the time. You just don't see them.
Yep.
And I guess the thing that struck me also was, you know, with NASA, they would show us these pictures, and for a long time, I didn't know that those pictures were not the actual thing.
Yeah,
that they saw.
You're right.
So,
I'm glad you said that, because I watch a lot of documentaries. So when you're looking at these things in space, when you're seeing color added to planets, and understand that some of the exoplanets they're talking about is theory of what they assume it's going to look like based on some measurements. And then the things we can see, like what Hubble sees, those colors aren't taken by Hubble. They add that color to it later. And to support something you just said, the majority of UFOs captured by military are utilizing sophisticated cameras with FLIR and night vision. So
that's right.
You could very well say it.
Totally different. So if the average person is watching a documentary and looking at the stuff that they're seeing, and then they look at the sky and they're looking for that, and that's not what's up there.
Yep.
You know, and I'm telling you, I got into a place where I would take a film, do a video, and then throw it in a media editor so I could see it frame by frame.
Right.
And almost every time there was something so defined in the middle of these 10,000, 20,000 frames. But I might see this kind of blurry thing, or this thing that's swirling around, or I catch it taking one particular shape. I'm saying that to say that they are covering something. And again, to say that if you're looking for a spaceship that looks like the ones in the movies where they're round with the round cap, you're never going to see this, because that's not what they look like.
You're right. And you know, a lot of that too, a lot of the traditional UFOs that are UAPs that are observed, those I view the UAP UFOs as cars, right? There's different models, different purposes. And so, yeah, I mean, like, you know, like look at humans. We have a car and a truck and a van and a plane and a helicopter for every reason there is. But some of the ones that are being observed more widely, I think those are transport. I think what you're hunting down are their military grade stuff, the stuff you're not supposed to see.
I'm telling you, I wish you had watched. I can't wait for you to watch this documentary.
I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna do this again.
Jump past the little chit chat that I do and don't do much in there. There's some in there that are so strange, and all of them are strange. There's no such thing as some of them. And my camera, because I'm not a professional photographer or anything. My son just bought me this camera, and I started filming stuff. And so I made a lot of mistakes, excuse me, early on. And so I decided when I got it, you know what, I'm just going to set this thing on auto, because I don't know what I'm doing with it. And there's this one photo, this thing that I saw, and it was changing shapes. And as the clouds started to go over, and I couldn't get it back in the view. But then the camera picked it up anyway. and started doing that thing where it auto flashes, taking pictures auto.
Right.
And I caught 3 of the most incredible still shots. I mean, I can't believe that I saw this, and it
really,
looks like
it has a profound effect on you, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and I want to know. I want to know exactly what they are. I have my greatest idea of what they are is what I have pulled from, like I said, the book, The Arcane Teachings, because it's come the closest to explaining what I've seen. And this is a very old book, by the way. And so it really did. And I haven't seen anything lately, but I've seen the moon, because I have seen this red thing hanging from the moon before. So I've been trying to see that again. But I think sometimes if you're trying to see, you can't see,
Yeah, I hear that very often. In fact, I hear a lot of investigators say, when you're out there in your intentions to see these things, you might not. Where that's why you have to have your gear at all times, because you just never know.
Never know. My chair now is parked by my window. My camera's out. My battery's always charged, because I'm not so much looking, but I feel like if I feel a sense that something's there, I want to be prepared to, because I am at the place where prior to this, no, I didn't want to be taken or anything like that. Like I said, when I thought I felt something looking back at me, I closed the camera down, closed the window, and went to bed.
Yeah,
but at this, that's right. I was not prepared for any such thing as that, But at this point, because I've saw so many, I really do feel like I'm open to that. I don't necessarily want to be probed or anything, but if you have something that you want to share with me that you think I'm able to comprehend, at this point, I'm open to having that experience. And I don't think I would be afraid if I woke up and something was standing next to my bed,
Yeah, you've come to a mental place of acceptance, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because there has to be a reason, right? And I mean, I guess maybe it doesn't have to be a reason. And I find it interesting, too. Now, I didn't know about the 2017 thing that the government was showing until I was deep into the Twitter community and the year and all of that. And I find it interesting that that's the same year I saw all this stuff.
Yeah, it's sometimes, like, I strongly believe that some things happen for reasons, right? But perhaps you were supposed. I have to say this. Maybe you're supposed to do this. Just by the title, Black people do see UFOs. You made me think, like, holy shit, like, is it possible that I didn't know? Because I have this habit with documentaries of just listening, because I think some of the videos and some of the more sensational ones anyways, I tend to find a lot of nonsensical stock footage. So I just listen to the information. And then when I read your title, again, not to reiterate it, but I was like, holy shit, I really got to look at this. And outside of the Barney Hill and some very select few, I just don't see a lot there. And it blows. So again, maybe you're supposed to be the one. You're the pioneer of this, right? You're gonna
maybe so.
You make these communities come together, because ultimately, if there's a more advanced intelligence out there, and I've said this on my show a lot, I don't think they're going to try to communicate with us as a whole until we start, letting go of things like race, religion, politics, and all these dividing factors. I don't think they're going to want, because there's no point communicating with us if we're going to have such, self-serving positions in life.
Oh, without a doubt. Because I mean, we can't get along with ourselves. How in the world, would we ever entertain the thought of dealing with something that's probably, there's no doubt, there's no probably, that is so vastly different from our physical self, until, I agree. They probably, because, there was Dorothy Isaac, she saw similar things that I saw, but in 1975, and she had over, 30,000 reels of film, and they did documentaries on her. And yet still, there is no I doubt. I will say this. There probably is a study of what you saw. It's just not something that they're sharing with us.
Right.
And then this gentleman by the name of Trevor Constable.
I just heard that name recently too. I'm glad you brought that up.
He was filming things using the infrared. And this again was in the 70s as well. And on the cover of a book that he has an exact picture of something I filmed in the 2017. And that blew my mind so much because he had passed away. And this other gentleman did an article and a study on him. And I finally got in touch with him because I just wanted to know. I said, well, when did he take that picture? And he said he took that, filmed that in 1975 out of an airplane window. And when he got home, he developed it and blah, 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 and he saw it. And it's the exact same thing, one of them, anyway, that I saw, that I filmed here in 2017. That's weird, right?
Well, for you, that's got to be like, wow. That's the moment for you, right? Now it's connected. You understand it better.
It blew me away. And and the gentleman actually emailed me and we talked back and forth, and I shared some of the stranger things because the one that he filmed, I have just like, I guess, for lack of a better word, two versions of that. A bigger one and then one that looks exactly like the one that he filmed. And he also, it was the other tie-in with him for me is I had read this term elementals in the arcane formulas. And then I started reading a book that he wrote in, I think it's 69 or something, I forget what year, and he used the term. He also used the term that people mentioned that people would call them fairy. And so I can only assume that he had probably read this book that I'm reading as well, too. I don't know. But for him to use that term, that is the other thing that made me decide that the arcane formula is giving me the closest explanation to what these might be. And they do kind of allude to the fact that all of them are not friendly.
Right.
Some of them could be dangerous. And for whatever reason, they allow themselves to be seen. Like, I'm not real, I don't know what to think about the idea that if that's the case, that they allow certain people to see them and maybe not. I don't know what to think of why that would be me.
Yeah, I don't either. I form theories about it, but again, to say what I said earlier, the only real reason I think they wouldn't communicate with me directly is I would be in a huge pain in the ass. So, but outside of that, I kind of think that, to your point, there's probably some out there they're not so nice, but I think the original ones that got here, if you've heard on the show before, I think the little gray guys are advanced robots that they use to go here and do their work. And I think the biological ones rent them out to other species that come along, right? We're essentially, yeah, like we're essentially the National Geographic's channel for alien life. And we're under study because I've spoken to a couple of people about this. In order for them to have a hybrid program where they could breathe our air and intermingle with us directly, that would take not a generation, millennia, and then a long time to make that program feasible.
How do you come to that conclusion? I mean, if they're advanced and if they are spiritual in nature or whatever, if they just were here before any of us,
right?
Why would that necessarily be the case?
I think so because, well, my thoughts anyway, if mankind gets to the point where we're traveling interplanetary and and heading to other star systems and we came across another planet and we saw this intelligent life form there, perhaps they're in their Stone Age, right? Or maybe in their Bronze Age, whatever age it may be, we can't breathe the air there. But we're interested, so we would observe them. We would study that planet for a very long time and we would want to minimize our appearance. We don't want them to know about us other than small parts. In other words, we're going to do experiments, right?
Now, so you're saying that they would behave the same as us?
Yeah, sure. I try when it comes to ufology and aliens, I try to utilize the human aspect because when people say abduction's crazy, I say we do it all the time. We've been abducting animals for a very long time and experimenting on them. And we've been abducting humans. We just don't tell anyone about it on the surface, but we definitely experiment. And
right. But so, that's not interplanetary though, right?
Right, not interplanetary. But if we were to get to that point, we would definitely do the same thing. And it would take us a very long time to create a hybrid species of ourselves that could breathe that air and you know, be immune to their disease and be able to consume the foods there. Like, it wouldn't happen fast. It would take a long time to do that.
But what if they are just part and parcel of a set of entities that actually created us? And for whatever reason, not many people understand or realize this. And of course, they do have communication with the very few select that know. Because my feeling is like the things that I've seen, you know, some of them very much look like they're
versions of us.
No, but like their body, their existence coincide with their mode of travel as well. Right. In other words, if you take one of the films some of the films that I have, and like I said, throw them in a thing where you can see every frame. Ultimately, I get to some, not in all of them, but I get to some version of something that looks like it is a living, breathing entity. You know, right. That makes sense. Not in the same sense that you or I are in this physical body,
right?
But not having the same type of matter body we have, but
like more of an intelligent energy is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. You know, and so I guess, you know, I read a lot of ancient texts. I'm just getting older, so I don't retain as much information, but I kind of retain what I think is important to me. And when you lay them all side by side, these texts, the story seems to get clearer. And the story that we've been told about how we got here seems to be a bit of a lie.
Well, yeah, I would agree, because I'm not knocking religion.
Yeah.
But this is hearsay based on man. You know?
You got to take the word religion off of these texts. That's probably the biggest problem that the worst thing they did was taking the Bible and taking parts of it from other things and putting it in this book and then using it in a church. And nobody reads it. You know?
Yeah, it's a control factor too. I said this on a podcast a lot. Religion, all religions are a pretty good thing. They got a pretty positive message, right? Until you get a charismatic person who has a self-serving thought process where he wants to be in control. And when he's that charismatic, he's going to control the masses. And then that same religion with a good message turns into a weapon.
It's terrible, you know, because it's just information. And it's information that's been misconstrued and rewritten and changed. And you have to really want to know what it's actually talking about to get in there. But back to these things that I have been filming, you know, I don't get the sense that they're, I think mankind, and particularly the scientists and people that want to control other things, need to think or believe that they are stupid, or that it would take them eons or years to breathe our air. And I don't get that sense. You know, I get the sense that they were long before us.
Right.
They don't deal with every Tom, Dick, or Harry. And I don't know why they choose or how they choose or whatever. I don't know what that's all about.
Right.
But I don't feel at all that they have any need for us, you know, other than maybe somebody who's searching for something, and for some reason at some points in time the search's code, they, you know, kind of merge, or, you know, something in my thought process led them to me or led me to them, you know, and they may have actually been trying to later on, okay, maybe she's ready, but I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't ready for any kind of hello, how are you?
Yeah, they're like, whoa, I think we just bothered her. We're gonna try again later.
Right. So I don't know. I guess we were different there. I don't think they would have any problem breathing this air or coming down here or doing anything down here that they wanted to do. I just did not get that sense. And they were changing shapes and colors and directions and everything so quickly without hesitation, without any issue, that I think there are thousands, and I think they were here. I think they've already always been where they are, and I don't know what caused them to be seen the way they were seen by me in 2017. Because I'm telling you, I just saw so much stuff that I don't understand why I saw it. I just don't understand.
Well, to support something you said, this is what I know, or what not what I know. This is what I've read and come to understand. There's definitely a missing link in mankind somewhere, and it is suggested that something altered our DNA to speed up our evolution. And what you're saying, did they play a role in helping create us? That's not impossible, because that's something we would do. That's what humans would do. How do we speed up things here? We can't, as humans, we can't help ourselves to alter things. We've altered fruit, vegetables, animals. Like, prior to prior to this, now there was no dogs. There was wolves and wild dogs. That was it. We manipulated them to be big, small, tall, thin, pocket size. It's what we do. We alter the DNA of things all the time, genetically. So,
well, now, there's a group of people that do that. Indigenous people never did that.
Right.
Indigenous people never took a human body, split the back down, peeled the sides back, and tried to just see and duplicate hearts and lungs and blah, 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 blah. Right. That's not an indigenous habit. The indigenous people had respect for the land, they had respect for the air, they had respect for ancestors, they had respect for everything that they knew had come before them, and they handed those stories down to the people that were there. Missionaries come in, another group of people come in and tell these people, kill them, beat them, fear them, what you're talking about is crazy. And then you find out that all of this information that they took from these people, they take it and put it in archives in Israel and in Rome and in the Vatican. Yeah. And, people just kind of jump over that fact.
It's kind of funny you say that too, because to go to the Vatican and request documents for any kind of study, it's near impossible. Okay. It's not going to happen.
and so that there's something wrong. And so, we have all these other ideas and all these other notions that we want to, that, I don't know, we just, as a mass, a group, we come to accept things that just aren't true.
You know what it is? Maybe the powers to be don't want to relinquish control.
Oh, of course they don't. And then, there's this thing, and it gets into this, if you start looking at it from a religious perspective, then it sounds fantastical. About a group of entities that started a planet down here, and then they decided they would rather be here than where they were. And this is the result of that, what we're in. And if you look at the history of those things that came down here, it was of a sexual nature. They came down here and mingled with what they created purely for a sexual reason. And if you look at what's going on in our world now, at the Roman priests, 300,000 children in France under the age of 10 were molested by priests and nuns. And the nuns were doing things to them with the crucifixes. And if you don't look at that as the basis of something bigger that's being not expressed here, then you'll never understand. If you keep, we can just keep shopping.
Well, a lot of what you just said too, like about them coming to this planet and like, well, we're going to stay here. That same thing could be example to humanity. When we came to America, right? Like, well, we like it here. We're not going back to England. This is our place now. Yeah. We did the same thing. And then whenever it was here, it's either you fall under control or we're going to pound you to submission.
We're going to pound you into submission. And so it's a bigger picture without a doubt. What and how and why this picture continues to unfold the way it is, who knows? Like I say, you get the text and you read it. Even the text that I read, these are somebody else's translations, and you got to try to read between those lines, because if I'm translating this, I'm going to put what I want to be expressed in it, but you can always find the truth in a document. I don't care how much has been hidden in it. And so it's the picture is bigger. These things that I saw, they're real.
Yeah.
I have them on film. They are real.
All right. So do you have any intentions of getting out there and filming more, getting into a more of a larger documentary role?
Well, I'm working on it because I had so many of them. And when I put the first documentary together, I don't even know what my intention was. I just, and so I took some of the longer ones and chopped them up. And so because I thought nobody's going to watch this. They're so long, but people did watch it. And so I filmed these things, different things for a year. So I have a ton of them that I have never even shared, so I decided that maybe I would just put them in, because some of them are 15 minutes long. Some of them are 3 minutes long. Some of them are 7. It just depends. And instead of breaking them up, I'm just going to let them run the course.
Yeah, do that. Because, what I do to documentary, by the way, so people are aware, it's going to be the big ones. Every stop I make is going to be about UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, whatever it is, and then other things as well. But it's not going to be exciting, people, right? Because if I don't see anything great, it's not, some of these shows have this habit, like, oh, did you hear that? Did you see this? And there's nothing there. And you're like, what did they see? And then there's the other thing they do too, where like, well, could this have been something? Like, well, our experts say yes. Well, who are your experts? Where did he get this from? So for my documentary, it's going to be boring unless I see something real. And I've said this on the show a lot. If I see Bigfoot, I might, it might be my demise. I have to go run to that thing and document it and probably get killed by it. But, I'm not going to be satisfied unless I have proof.
Oh my God. It's amazing to me that I've listened to a lot of your on YouTube.
Yeah, the podcast. Yeah.
And I'm amazed at the number of people that I've spoken with, or that have interviewed me, or that I've interfaced with on Twitter, which I'm off of Twitter now because the UFO community there can be really crazy.
Yeah.
But most of the people have not had any experience, but they have these way out opinions.
Yeah. It's people trying to make peace with themselves about what it could be, right? Because at the end of the day, we all question our mortality and our belief systems, and even for me, like it's a hard pill for me to swallow, to think that there's no life outside of Earth. That's crazy talk. You know what I mean? It's so vast. Like we're finding galaxies, and the idea that there's other universes and other bubbles, which might even be a mirror to us. So there's a planet right now on another universe where you and I are having a podcast, but we're talking about salad. So it's hard for me to swallow the idea that there's not more life out there, and there's not mystery out there. And like the energy and the construct of humans ourselves, we're raw energy. Our consciousness and our soul, I think, are the same thing. We're just pure energy, currently inside of our vessel, waiting to move to the next level. And
so have you read any ancient texts? Have you read like the Pistis Sophia or the Nag Hammadi or any of those texts?
I haven't yet. I'll tell you why. The whole approach to this podcast, before I did minor research, and I'm trying to make it a habit of learning very little about the guest before they get on. So when I like meeting you, now I'm meeting Patricia, we're having this conversation. I really like what she's saying. I got to know you. There's no bias there. And that's why I don't read a lot of the other stuff too, because I don't want to have a bias yet. Once I've gotten, my fill of interviews, and I've learned people, and I've gathered my own theories, Then I go on to read other things. Because I'm an evolving mind. I'm not steadfast in something. I might think something right now and have a theory now, but if I learn something new, I'm not going to stay where I was because I just learned something new. It's unhealthy to be like, well, I know this and that's all there is to it. Well, that's you're not learning. That's not science, you know? So
I wonder if you have had an experience and don't know it.
I've had someone say that to me before too. A friend of
because you're too, I don't know what the word I want to use. I feel like you've had an experience.
Yeah, some people said like your theories sound pretty strong, and like you sure like maybe something didn't happen, you don't remember it. I'm like, well, no. Like goes. Then he hit me with, well, our technology's sophisticated. How would you know if it happened? And I was like, well, I guess I wouldn't. So, because I don't remember surgery. I went for surgery once, and I don't remember that. So, it's it could be possible. Who knows?
Nothing as a child, nothing.
No, nothing.
And when I say experience, I don't necessarily mean some UFO experience. Just any experience of even dreams.
Oh, dreams. You know? I have extremely vivid dreams.
Yeah.
My whole life. In fact, they disrupt my sleep. But not too many fantastic ones. Very few in between. Like I've had entities talk to me in my dreams that were like, I guess, shadow in nature, but I look at that logically as if I depicted that. I created that because I find myself able to interact in my dreams, you know, at a conscious, somewhat of a conscious level. But no, nothing really at all. Again, I think it's because I push for it, right? I want to know. And I can, like you can see how I am. I have so much energy. I never shut up, right? And I'm learning even on the podcast. I'm reeling in, let the guests talk, you know. And
I'm like that too, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I get excited. So if an alien were to walk in the house right now, it'd be like, holy shit, I got so many questions. And they would probably be like, all right, we got to go, man. Look at this light. You're done. So I don't know.
Whereas in 2013, I had just moved in with my son and my grandson. My grandson must have been about 9. I have this on film too. And he loved the wrestling. And so he gives me the cell phone one day and he says, Granny, film me. And he's playing this wrestler running back and forth in the living room.
Yeah.
So I'm looking in the screen and he runs out of the living room into the dining room, and the view on the camera, this blob of light comes running, flushing out behind him, right? Just out of nowhere. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's something in the camera. And so he's back in the room playing and doing the thing. He runs back in there and this light starts bouncing off of the walls. And he would run in the room and it would come swishing, not swishing because I couldn't hear it, through and behind. In other words, it was almost like he was playing with him.
Yeah.
His energy was so high. And I didn't say anything. I waited until I played it back because I wanted to see if he saw the light too. So he looked at it and he's going, and he says, what is all that light? And I just said, oh, it's just energy, you know, because you're just happy. And he accepted that.
Yeah.
But this was purely something else in the room with us that day.
I see that. I speak to a lot of the paranormal investigators, and then I also speak to some scientists, and mostly the scientists off podcasts, because these guys, outside of 20 minutes of conversation, they don't have a lot to add, right? And they're kind of melatonin. And so what I'm coming to the consensus is that some people, that, like, again, our consciousness and it's just raw energy. I think it's our soul. Now, sometimes when you're involved with another entity that might be there, like I'm not going to say ghost, but just entity, it's got to be there in the form of energy. And the best way to see energy, if it's starting to, you know, interact with you, it's going to light up a bit, right? It's going to manipulate and ionize the energy around it. That's my thoughts.
This it was something to watch. It so much so to now I've been out of that house, like I said, 2013, last year sometime, just looking at the video. I actually found that landlord's phone number and I called him and I asked him if somebody had died in the house. And he said, not to his knowledge.
Yeah.
But that's how strange, or how
that that your grandchild might have just, I mean, in my opinion, might have found another energy, saw the joy in him as play, and reminded that entity that's not with us anymore, or that was in the area, felt that energy of joy and wanted to, join in because it's fun.
Well, it really was. It was really like he was enjoying. It was something that was playing. It just wasn't laughing. My grandson was laughing, but this thing was just, and it at one point it went around him and bounced back in and went back into the dining room when my grandson was still in the room jumping around, and it went across the ceiling. And I mean, and I have that. I guess I have this on film, and that was before I saw the orbs and before the thing in 2017. And so I wonder,
Yeah, well, I mean, your son, your grandson is exhibiting joy, and he's putting positive energy out into the universe. Something nearby was like that. I remember that fun. I remember that feeling. I want to be part of it. Patricia, I feel bad for people when I pass that know me. You better hope I go to another existence, because I'm going to bother people bad. It's just my nature.
What you say that, but you'll probably get out of here and find the other life or the next level so involved that you just won't
look back.
You won't have time for us.
Yeah, great. Yeah, if I pass and like, look, you could either recycle here and start again, or you could just hang back here, or you could go travel the vastness of the universe and learn everything. My option is going to be, well, I'm going to travel and learn everything.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would want to do.
Me too. Like if there's some realm where you can just learn what it is actually that makes a musical note or all of that kind of sense, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Or I want to go to the realm where they create flowers.
Yeah, visit other planets and see other life forms and learn, I would be all about that.
Yeah.
Patricia, before we close, a couple things. One, you've got me on this tangent. So between you and I, because I'm going to have you on again, let's call it in about a month or two. Let's both work on finding another, for you specifically. We got to meet other Black people in ufology. I got to do it now. You've got me on this road because I can't accept it.
That's right.
And so some of my friends that don't know me personally, sorry, I'm going to be bothering you because I want to know. It's got my interest now. I never gave that a second thought till I read that title from you. So.
Right. Well, yeah, you have to look at it.
I will. I will look.
Have you seen anything on there?
No, tonight is my night. I've already got the food ordered. I'm going to sit there. So, and then I'm going to call you, have you back on the show, and then we're going to go over your documentary in detail, and then what you discover between now and then, and we're going to reconnect on that. I'm excited for that.
All right, me too, because I think if you watch anything on that documentary, you'll probably be emailing me back pretty quickly.
Yeah. And the documentary title, I want you to say the title. Say the title of your documentary.
It's Black People Do See UFOs. And the next one coming up is called The Second They Arrived.
Excellent. So I'm going to be hooked. I look forward to it. In the meantime, Patricia, I had a great time talking to you, and I know we're going to do it again.
Here, I feel like I've known you all my life.
Yeah, it was a good connection with us. Really good one.
Yeah. And I'm sorry about the snafu. I've got the Bluetooth ear plug somewhere, and I couldn't get them.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Okay. We'll be better organized next time. Yes, so for those of you listening, we're going to say good day and good night, and I'm going to keep Patricia on the line and have a little post with her. So have a good night, everyone.